Hey guys, here we have a generous, kind sample of K Shave Worx. The scent is High Peaks, and it is provided by a great viewer, and either a viewer or somebody I was commenting with online, and they were just generous and sent me several samples. The recent one of the Amazelnut from Barrister and Man, you probably noticed it was had this same kind of post-it, and he actually wrote it on masking tape in the back, but it was a little harder to read, and so I rewrote everything with these on the top, and that way you can show it better on the thumbnails as well as easier for me to read. But I'm not going to complain, criticize his handwriting for a free sample, right? And K Shave Worx is a brand that I have seen. I saw the website online years ago, a few years ago, and and they have a lot of different scents, and I have always wanted to try them out, but I've never pulled the trigger. I haven't really, in my area of the shaving universe, I haven't really seen uh, that brand thrown around very much, and so it just never came forward too much on my radar. And they're not part of Maggard Razors in terms of their sample program, so otherwise I would have picked one up by now. Excuse me, it's kind of late. The other gear is a Perma-Sharp that's got, I don't know, 10 or so uses on it. And we're going to put it inside this 95 gap Wolfman WR2. It's brushed stainless steel, and it gives me a little bit of blade feel. It's still quite comfortable, but enough to make me want to go to the 75 gap, which is kind of a custom deal, or even less. And that's why I chose the Perma-Sharp today. Perma-Sharp is a razor. The blade, when it's young, it might give me a little bit more feel, but with 10 uses on it, it might play really nicely with the Wolfman. Let's just see. And Perma-Sharp Super Stainless. It just says Perma-Sharp Stainless, but from my research, it seems that the Super Stainless and the Stainless are the same. The soft bits today, other than the soap, is this Zenith 507N XS. Is, I believe, the official kind of code for it, but it's the extra soft horse brush from Zenith. He's been soaking for a little bit in water. I really like that brush in terms of it's very soft for a horse. I only tried one other horse, but I like the way it flexes quite a bit. Very easy display. It does have just a little bit of prickle sometimes, but it just it's just something strange about the way it feels. It's just it's different than the badger or the boar. It's just a horse. All right. 2 days of growth is what we're working with. I have already spooned out this quarter teaspoon measure of soap. It's probably a little bit more than that, since you can see it's a little bit rounded. I'm going to press it into the bottom of my lather bowl. Now, as I'm doing that here, I'll talk a little bit, because this soap is quite crumbly, and this is really kind of the only way to go in terms of a sample, because you can't get your brush inside that tiny little pot, right? But when you have one that's kind of crumbly like this one is, you have to be a little bit more careful with it. Make sure you press the bits down. See, like this top part here, let me see if I can rotate it in the light there. Yeah, see that section right there? It's very flat. It's very pressed down into the bottom. Whereas this section up here in the top is still kind of needs some work. See, because if the chunks of the sample come loose, and if they're kind of hard, then they can be pushed around as you're working your lather, instead of being turned into lather. Instead of being, you want the brush to move across them, so that the brush can then kind of be an abrasive and turn them into and integrate them into the the lather, you know, pick up small bits of them with each pass and magically turn them from soap into the lather. And so if you leave the crumbles on there, then I have had that happen where it looked okay, but then when I was putting my lather on, I just had crumbles and chunks on my face. So that was obviously pieces of soap that never made it to become lather. They just stayed chunks of soap. I'm curious to see if how this soap's going to do. I'm sure it'll be okay, because I don't think somebody would create a whole line with just tens and tens of fragrances without it being a decent soap, right? So K Shave Worx, and it's K, just the letter K, and then shave, and then works. I thought it was some kind of special spelling, but well, no, you know what it might be? It might be WORX. See, he wrote it there, and I think that's in my mind as far as what it is as well. All right, so we've got it all smeared pretty flat into the bottom there. It's being a pretty firm soap, that could mean a good thing. That could be something in terms of the economy of the soap. It could, as I'm shaking most of the water out of the brush here, that could mean that a little goes a long way, and that it can take a lot of water and then perform well, that sort of thing. All right, as we mix it up, oh, your camera, it's a little bit high. Let's see if I can get you less on my forehead and more on the lather bowl. So with a little bit of work, you can see we've gotten frothy. Now, that's neither good nor bad at this point, because many soaps do that, and all you do is just keep working, and then they turn fine. It's got a nice scent. My nose is maybe 6 inches from the rim of the bowl there, by my guess, maybe 8, if I had to really push it, 6, 7, or 8 inches away. And already we got some notes kind of coming up to me. That's a good sign. Maybe seem like a bit fruity. I don't know. It's pleasant. It's enjoyable. And yes, you can see how we've gone away from all those little bubbles. And as you can see by the texture of the soap, it's very firm. It's very rigid. It needs water. And with that little bit of water, we've changed it quite a bit. Everything's starting to mellow out, so that's good. There are some almost noir type notes in there as well. I don't know how to identify that part of the kind of the scent spectrum. Reminds me of a certain kind of cologne. It's but it's not woody or anything like that. It's pretty standard. What is that note? It's easygoing. Almost like maybe there's some apple in there, but then there's something along with it, almost like an aldehyde. A soapy scent as well. And like I was saying about the horse brush, it's like the end of the tips there, 50% of the length is easy to splay. And that makes such a big difference in terms of the comfort on your face. And then when you get closer to the base of the knot, closer to where it joins with the handle, it starts to firm up and give a little backbone. And so it's definitely, to me, doesn't seem like any kind of floppy knot or anything like that. We've added water twice now, and this feels like a pretty nice soap base so far. You can still see it's keeping its structure really well, but I'm very pleased with the appearance of the kind of richness of the lather. It's not airy or foamy. Let's take it a little further with more water. We have added about 17 milliliters so far. That's not a lot. We're getting almost to that kind of average amount of water added, so we're still kind of within the standard deviation for sure. I hope I'm using that term right. I could never in school, in math class, when we studied the standard deviation, I could never find a teacher to explain it to me properly. It's like they didn't know either. It's like all they could do was kind of regurgitate the textbook, and it wasn't using the right words to make me understand what a standard deviation was. I think I kind of have an idea nowadays, but the teachers just didn't know. Yeah, see, now this is a good looking lather. It looks like it's holding the water well in kind of a creamy way. I don't see tons of like micro bubbles. Some of the traits that I sometimes see with an inferior product. Now, just in case I'm wrong and this soap can't handle being super hydrated, I think maybe I'm gonna stop right now. But look, it's got some kind of a creaminess to it there. It's still holding its structure in some ways, but not in others. And so I believe it's at a good point in its life where maybe it's time to try it out. It's very possible it could take a lot more water. Let's do a little finger test here. Get my fingers wet. Yeah, it's not leaving behind a lot of slickness on my fingers. That's one of the things that you can kind of do. Put the lather in your fingers, and then you can squeeze, and then that'll tell you what kind of resistance the viscosity of the lather is giving you. And then what I do is I'll rub my finger back and forth along, my thumb back and forth along my fingertips. And usually when I do it the first time, I get a nice slick feel. But what I want to pay attention to is after that first time, when I go back along where I've been, what kind of slickness is there? That's the real slickness that kind of tells me what I'm going to be able to expect during the shave. And this is kind of a very light, creamy, almost creamy, watery kind of slickness. It doesn't feel like it's luxurious, but the impression I'm getting from this is that it's going to do the job pretty well. It's not going to be a slouch, but it's probably not going to be top tier. Let's just see if that holds true. But the feel that I did get from it seems to be telling me that I'm probably wise to stop adding water. So let's just see what happens here. Yeah, I like the scent. Oh, you regular viewers will know notice that I'm no longer as scraggly as I used to be. I just gave myself a whole lot of time between haircuts recently. Not intentionally, it's just one of those things that was just hard to fit into my busyness. Take the time to do it. Something always seemed more important. So right now the brush is giving me just a little bit of prickle, but I guess when that prickle is on the end of a strand that is just so flexible that it just doesn't seem to be as bothersome as other kinds of prickle. Now, as I'm working it onto my face here, I can tell that it's drying a little bit, or maybe it's just maturing some. I'm not exactly sure what. And so what I'm going to do is just get some dribbles of water and fine tune what's on the brush here. And what we may then see is this lather start to gain in creaminess by a couple of steps here. And so it could turn kind of from good to great. Keeping adding water as I'm seeing it improve. I don't remember the price point of this soap. I don't think it was at some kind of premium level. Right now, this is really looking pretty nice. More dribbles of water. Looks like it's taken more water without a problem at all. The lather's getting richer and creamier. Yeah, really. Wow. Now, how does it? Yeah, it feels pretty slick. Pretty good. Doesn't seem to be, super creamy. The feel there, it washed off my hand really easily. I prefer soaps that have a little bit more, almost like a creaminess that sticks to you kind of approach. I don't really know what that is called in the soap world. Looks like I'm safe to add more water if I want to, but I'm just going to go ahead and shave with this. Yeah, a little bit of blade feel, but kind of seems like the Perma-Sharp was a good choice. Pulling through the 2 days of growth pretty much without any tugging or any other kind of problem there. You can see I am kind of buffing and doing the same areas a few times. I don't feel that's necessary, but it's almost a habit. I'm feeling of what's happening with the razor as I'm going over that area. I'm feeling the resistance that the hair is giving me. I'm feeling the angle of the approach to make sure it's right. And so I just have kind of done a lot of buffing as it turns out. Pleasant scent. Kind of somehow has a little bit of an outdoorsy feel to it. Nothing woody, nothing super bright. If there's citrus in there, it's very low key. Kind of even keeled. Not really any murky notes like oud, I don't think, or something dark like that. Yeah, that rinse just told me a lot. It's not as good as Stirling. Stirling's at an amazing price point. To me, it's kind of the benchmark. If you want to be a soap maker, you need to at least be as good as Stirling. So if Stirling can be as good as it is, which is terrific, and stay at the low price point he has, then you gotta come at that or do better, I think, to compete in this market. And what that rinse just told me was it pretty easily, the water just kind of easily moved everything away, and very little kind of clung to my face. It does seem like a very serviceable soap in terms of providing you with kind of a slick protection for your shaving. The lather feels good on your face, but it's like it's just kind of missing some ingredient. Got a little friend right there. That ingredient that really helps with secondary slickness. That ingredient that almost makes your lather start to come back alive a little bit when you splash water on your freshly shaven face. That's not here for the most part in this soap. Nice comfort now with that. Stubble worked well down. Looks like a nice combo here of razor and blade. Hey guys, I'm gonna try pipes. I've mentioned on my channel recently how I've tried cigars, and I've enjoyed many of them quite well. And my dad, he did smoke a few cigars when I was growing up, but I remember seeing some of his pipe stuff sitting around. And so I may actually be able to, if he can find them, have some of his old pipes. And of course, he doesn't have any cigars to pass down, but he does have some pipes, so that's pretty cool. A couple, if he can find them. He didn't. He quit pipe smoking much longer ago than he was cigar smoking, so we'll just have to see if he can find them. My skin after that pass, there's not a lot of drag, that some soaps do leave behind, but yeah, you definitely want to want to reapply some lather if you want to hit places again with some touch-ups. But it is leaving my skin kind of feeling healthy. But it's not, it doesn't have that crazy slick like Stirling might, Barrister and Man, Declaration Grooming, Summer Break, Highland Springs is good, and so is, who's the guy that does Pages? Hub City, Seaforth, Spearhead, done by Spearhead. Those lathers are just top notch, and they have that ultra kind of slickness. But this guy's going to do the job, it seems, right? And so that's cool. And something interesting I remember as I would peruse the website of K Shave Worx is that I'm pretty sure I saw some scents on there that you just aren't going to see anywhere else. Some very unique creations. I think I remember one that was grape. Something like that, And so who knows? If the scent strength seems to be reasonable, and this is a sample, a lot of times the samples, even in the top tier makers, seem to be kind of low strength by the time they make it to you. And this sample is pretty nicely, I'd say this is 5 out of 10. I'm easily able to apprehend it as I am working here, as I'm doing my thing. See, it's not dissipating. It may be turning a little bit on the foamy side, and and staying away from that ultra creaminess that those other makers I was talking about have, but it's still very serviceable. And this is the third pass I just put on, and a little bit more than a quarter teaspoon, and I've got, 2 or 3 more passes in the bowl. So I think it's probably a pretty economical soap. If you got a tub of that, then it looks like you're going to have a nice number of shaves available to you. So that's good. Okay, third pass. I bet I am just going to pick up a few stragglers and have it be a comfy run here. There is a spot on my neck where I've kind of generated a little irritation, and it's possible that the other better soaps would not have allowed that to happen. Could it be my technique? Yeah, maybe. This blade is one I have to be careful with in certain razors. And there we go. It does seem like it's got, yeah, there's a little bit of irritation right there. It does seem like it has maybe some skin nourishing ingredients, because I do kind of feel that in my face. At my age, one of the things that haircuts do is make me look a lot older when I get a haircut. Because what's happening is the bristles, the hairs, like in my goatee, that have turned gray, there's a portion of them that I'm now cutting off the dark parts of those hairs because they've turned gray, and maybe half the length is gray and the ends of it is brown. And so then by trimming them, I'm now turning them more gray. And that happens very much here on the side of my head, because I've got that typical gray hair on the side. And so my sides get more gray and more gray with each haircut. All right. So not quite, I think this is not quite giving me as much protection because of that lack of that extra edge of slickness. But I'll bet if a person was had this kind of soap and was able to find a pretty smooth combination of razor and blade, then they would just never have any problems with it, right? So here's this Dunshire balm that I often use here, because I'm about to go to bed and I don't really need to keep smelling good. So I'm going to put a few drops of water on my face just to make it easier to apply. And I actually think that this High Peaks might have a note or two in common with the Dunshire, which is Acquadigio. It's inspired by Acquadigio from Armani. This is a Stirling balm, pretty effective. So it's going to help that little bit of irritation to be fine. Well, I've got that curiosity satiated. Oh, I've got a sideburn to align. This one's a little bit longer. We'll do that another day. We'll see if anybody looks at me weird at church tomorrow. All right, there we go. So, like I said, K Shave Worx. It's lower than a lot of soaps out there that you'll see me use. Even some new guys like 345, they're better soap bases than the K Shave Worx. Nothing special. It'll get the job done. If you're a person who really needs that kind of top-notch slickness, that extra level of slickness that the better soaps have, then you will find maybe this soap base a little lacking, and you'll be rewarded by moving to many of the other soaps that are out there. I enjoyed the scent, very nice, high peaks. Didn't really make me feel like I was on a mountaintop or anything, but it was very enjoyable. I'll put the scent list there, the scent notes. I believe I found some of them in the description, because right now it's kind of a blind thing. I did look them up, but it was a few months ago, so I have no idea, no memory what they are. It was an economical soap. It doesn't look like it's going to take a ton of it to give you enough lather to do the job. So there we go. Hopefully it's an inexpensive soap, and therefore that kind of justifies the lack of as good a quality as some of the other ones out there. We did stick with just a little bit less than 20 milliliters, I'm going to say 18 milliliters of water used to make that lather. A little bit more than a quarter teaspoon of soap was used. And today was I'm going to have to give this rating here of blade and razor. I'm just going to give it good instead of very good, probably because of the lather's fault and not really the razor and blade's fault, but that's just the way that particular rating works. When I go to look for what blades do best, if I use this Perma-Sharp with this same razor with another one, it does great, then that'll be the one that shows off that the Perma-Sharp is a great match, right? So it was very enjoyable. 10 uses or so. A lot of people definitely would have pitched that blade by then, but it was easily taking down 2 days of growth, no tugging. So very nice experience. And then extra comfort, extra special comfort on the second and third passes, and with the only possible exception being and there is a bump right there, and so that helps that to be a little bit of a problem area. I don't think there was too much else to cover. Yeah, the soap, blade, razor, the brush was terrific. I told you about the way I like the flex. I did get a little bit of prickle. If the lather were just a little bit more creamy, then I think that would have masked some of that prickle, and the brush would have felt even better. But there we go. That's today's shave. The Dunshire does seem to be going very well. Have a nice transition. It was an inadvertent but related discovery of such a good match. All right, guys, this is Sugar Daddy Shaves, freshly shorn and looking much more civilized and less grungy. And there we go. I hope that this shave somehow helps you. If you were ever curious about K Shave Worx, maybe this gives you a little bit of an impression about what it could offer you or not offer you. Of course, I'm not, the grandmaster of all lather, and so it's possible that some other technique of lathering it might make it perform a little better. But this is my impression, at least. You guys take care. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Night.